The first time Ethan drove through Graymist Valley, he told himself the uneasiness in his stomach came from lack of sleep. Long-haul trucking wasn't supposed to be glamorous, but the nighttime routes were starting to play tricks on his senses. The GPS insisted this secluded bypass was the fastest way through rural Pennsylvania, shaving an hour off his delivery time. He didn't question it. No. Then, at 1:14 a.m., the mist gathered like something alive, flowing across the narrow two-lane road in slow, thick waves. Ethan leaned forward over the steering wheel, squinting. His headlights punched only a shallow tunnel through the fog, illuminating cracked asphalt, glistening wet even though the sky was clear. A bad feeling tugged at him quiet. Insistent, he turned up the radio. Static. Not just a weak signal, pure static, as if every station had vanished. He tried again. Nothing. The hum of the engine felt louder than usual, vibrating through the floorboards. Ethan swallowed hard and kept driving. A few miles later, something changed. Subtle at first, the fog drew back, thinning. The air warmed, and the road looked newly paved, smooth and fresh, with reflective paint so bright it seemed to glow. Ethan didn't remember crossing into construction territory. There hadn't even been signs. Then he saw her. A woman stood on the shoulder, one hand raised limply, as if asking for help but too exhausted to commit to the gesture. She wore a white dress, long, soaked, clinging to her legs, not soaked from rain. From something thicker, the fabric shone dark in places. Ethan's heart lurched. He slowed the truck, rolling past her at crawling speed. Her head hung low, hair wet and matted over her face. She didn't look up. He pulled over 20 yards ahead, hand shaking on the gear shift. He knew the rules. Every trucker don't stop for strangers on midnight roads, but something about the woman's stillness got under his skin. She wasn't waving frantically. She wasn't running. She was simply waiting. As if she knew he'd stop, Ethan exhaled, grabbed his flashlight, and stepped out into the warm, strangely humid air. The smell hit him immediately. Sweet, metallic, like iron cooking on a stove. He walked back toward her. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" His voice felt small in the wide darkness. The woman's head lifted a fraction. The flashlight beam trembled, jittering across her face. Only then did Ethan realize she wasn't dripping with water. Her dress was red with dried blood. Her lips moved. No sound came out. Ethan froze, every instinct screaming at him to run, but he forced himself one step closer. "Ma'am, do you need?" She snapped her head up fully. Her eyes were gone, not gouged, not damaged, simply missing. The sockets smooth and dark, as if she had never been born with them. Ethan stumbled back, his flashlight clattered to the pavement. Sputtering, the woman took a slow step forward. "Don't drive this road," she whispered. The voice wasn't hers. It was layered, multiple voices stacked on top of one another, impossible and cold. Ethan spun, sprinting back to the truck. He jumped inside, slammed the door, locked it, and jammed the truck into gear. Gravel sprayed behind him as he sped off, hands shaking uncontrollably. But the road ahead no longer looked new and smooth. It looked ancient, cracked, scarred, and the mist was returning. Ethan gripped the wheel so tightly his knuckles drained white. The mist folded around the truck again, swallowing the world beyond the windshield. His breathing came in short, ragged bursts, each one fogging the glass. He didn't dare look in the mirrors, not after what he'd just seen. Every instinct screamed that if he checked, if he so much as glanced back, she'd be sitting in the passenger seat, head tilted, empty sockets staring at him. The road twisted unexpectedly. Ethan jerked the wheel, tires skidding over loose gravel before righting themselves. His GPS rerouted itself without being touched, the screen flickering violently like something was interfering with the signal. A new route appeared, longer, winding, cutting deep into the valley's forest. He didn't choose it. The GPS did. The voice guidance activated, but the tone was wrong, distorted, dragging through static like someone whispering through broken speakers. "Continue." On the road, Ethan slammed a fist against the screen. "Shut up," "Shut up." The device ignored him, repeating the command with a deeper, colder undertone. His heart pounded. He needed to get out of Graymist Valley. He needed to get back to a highway, a town, civilization, anything. But this suffocating stretch of night, where the road felt alive beneath him. He pushed the accelerator. The truck surged forward. For a few miles, nothing happened. The fog thinned again. The trees parted, revealing a long curve ahead. Relief tugged at Ethan's chest. Maybe it had been some twisted hallucination brought on by exhaustion. Maybe a figure stepped into the road. Ethan hit the brakes so hard, the cab shook. The truck screeched, fishtailing across the slick asphalt. He clung to the wheel, eyes locked on the shape illuminated by his headlights. A child. A boy, maybe 8 or 9, wearing an oversized hoodie soaked down the front. He stared straight at Ethan, or rather, his head was angled that way, like the woman. They had no eyes, just smooth, empty skin where they should have been. The boy lifted both hands slowly, palms outward. Ethan rolled down the window an inch, voice cracking. "Kid, get off the road. You're gonna get hurt." The boy's mouth opened, stretching too wide, revealing no tongue, no teeth, only darkness. The same layered voices poured out. "You were warned." Ethan's hand flew to the gear shift, but before he could accelerate, the boy's body jerked violently as if yanked backward by invisible ropes. He was dragged off the road, disappearing into the tree line with a wet, horrible scraping sound. Ethan's stomach twisted. This wasn't a hallucination. This wasn't exhaustion. Something on this road was using the deed, or whatever they were now, to send a message. He floored the gas pedal. The truck roared down the road, but the direction felt wrong. The trees leaned in, branches hanging lower, scraping against the trailer like skeletal fingers. The mist pulsed, thickening, thinning, shifting with purpose. A mile ahead, Ethan spotted Lightsoft. Yellow, warm, a gas station. He almost cried with relief. He slowed, pulling into the cracked, uneven parking lot. The station looked old but functioning. A single pump, dusty windows, a buzzing fluorescent sign reading Misty Mart. Inside, a man stood behind the counter, staring at Ethan as if expecting him. The bell above the door jingled when Ethan stepped inside. "You shouldn't be here," the man said before Ethan could speak. Ethan swallowed. "Then why is this the only road my GPS keeps taking me to?" The man's expression darkened. "Because the road remembers you." Ethan felt his blood run cold. The fluorescent light above him flickered, buzzing like an angry hornet. The man behind the counter didn't blink, didn't shift his weight, didn't even seem to breathe. He just stared with a kind of resigned dread, as if he'd seen Ethan 100 times before and knew exactly how this night would end. "What the hell does that mean?" Ethan rasped. "Remember me from what? I've never been here." The man exhaled slowly, a hollow, weary sound. "No one comes to Graymist Valley, not unless the road calls them, not unless it has a reason." Ethan stepped closer, palms flat on the counter. People things are showing up on the road. A woman covered in blood, a kid. They had no eyes. They spoke in voices that didn't belong to them. What is wrong with this place? Is it toxic fumes? A sinkhole? Something messing with the air? The man shook his head. "If it were that simple, I'd have left decades ago." His voice dropped. "The road takes memories. It takes identities. It strips the dead of their faces, their voices. Then it uses them. For what? To warn the living." Ethan stared at him. "Warn them about what?" "Let me call someone. Can you call the cops? My dispatcher? Anyone?" The man's expression flickered sympathy, fear, and something else. "Phones don't work here. They haven't since the accident." "Accident?" Ethan's pulse kicked up. "What accident?" The man hesitated, then turned and pointed to a dusty bulletin board near the door. Newspaper clippings were pinned haphazardly, yellowed with age. Ethan stepped closer, scanning headlines. 3 dead in truck collision Valley route. Closed driver loses control. Kills family of 4, roadway declared unsafe, permanent closure. Suchested. Ethan. Stomach dropped. Wait, he whispered. These are from 10 years ago. The man nodded. The crash that closed this stretch. They said a trucker fell asleep at the wheel, crossed the line, took out a whole family. Ethan shook his head violently. I wasn't driving trucks 10 years ago. No, the man said softly. But you were there. Ethan froze. What? You were the first one on scene. You called for help. You held the boy's hand while he died. The man swallowed hard. The road remembers pain, Ethan. It remembers the blood that seeped into its cracks. It remembers the screams, and it remembers the man who tried to help, even if he forgot the night. Ethan staggered back, grabbing the edge of a shelf for balance. A sharp ache bloomed in his head, like a memory trying to claw its way out. Flashes of twisted metal, flames licking up a van's shattered windshield, a little boy reaching out with a trembling hand. No, Ethan whispered. No, I would remember that. I would remember you blocked it out. People do that. But the road doesn't forget. It loops people back, again and again, until they face what they ran from. The bell jingled again, but Ethan hadn't touched the door. Both men turned. The woman in the blood-soaked dress stood in the doorway. Behind her was the boy, their empty sockets fixed on Ethan. All the lights in the store went out. The darkness inside the store swallowed Ethan whole. Only the faint glow of the freezer lights hummed in the back, casting long, trembling shadows across the aisles. The woman in the doorway stepped forward with slow, deliberate movements, her bare feet leaving no sound on the linoleum. The boy drifted beside her, head tilted slightly toward Ethan as if listening for the beat of his heart. Behind the counter, the clerk whispered, "Stay still." Ethan couldn't. His breath shook out of him, fast and shallow. "What do you want from me?" The layered voices answered not from the woman's mouth, not from the boy, but from everywhere at once, vibrating through the walls, the ceiling, the very air around him. "Remember, remember." Ethan staggered backwards as a sudden, searing pulse of memory ripped through his mind. He was standing on this same road 10 years younger, hands covered in someone else's blood, the crash site illuminated by burning metal. A woman pinned in the front seat, body twisted at an impossible angle. A boy calling out weakly. The smell of gasoline, the hiss of fire. And Ethan Young, terrified Ethan had promised the child he wouldn't leave. "I'm here," he'd whispered. "I won't let you die alone." And the boy had squeezed his fingers once before going still. The memory shattered back into the present with a force that nearly knocked him off his feet. Ethan gasped, clutching his head as the woman and boy stood motionless, their eyeless faces fixed on him. "I didn't do this," Ethan choked. "I didn't cause the accident." "No," the road voices replied. "But you were bound to it. The ones who die in a road to leave their last moments behind. You carry theirs." The boy stepped forward. The air around him flickered like heat haze. "You kept your promise," his voice whispered through the layered echoes. "You stayed. You held on, but you forgot us." Ethan's throat tightened. "I didn't mean to." The woman lifted her hand. The clerk ducked behind the counter. "This is it," he whispered. "This is when it decides." Ethan stood shaking, but for the first time since entering Graymist Valley, he didn't run. He didn't hide. He breathed through the terror and stepped closer to the two figures. "I remember you now," as Saeed softly. "I remember all of it. I'm sorry I forgot. I'm sorry you died alone on this road. I'm sorry the world moved on without you." The layered voices fell silent. The air shifted. The woman's form flickered, fading, softening. Her blood-soaked dress grew translucent. The boy's empty sockets filled briefly with a faint, ember-like glow, not of eyes, but of something resembling peace. The road spoke one last time, soft for now, then go. The woman and child dissolved into mist, their shapes unraveling like smoke in sunlight. The oppressive weight lifted from the store. The buzzing lights snapped back on. Ethan exhaled, knees weak, The clerk stood slowly. "You faced it," he said. "Most don't." Ethan didn't wait. He stepped outside. The mist was gone. The road stretched ahead, cracked, real again. His truck engine started on the first try. As he pulled away from Misty Mart, the GPS reset on its own. A new route appeared, leading him out of the valley, back toward civilization, back toward a world where the dead no longer whispered his name. But in his rearview mirror for just a moment he saw the boy sitting in the passenger seat, smiling faintly, before fading like dust into the night. Ethan whispered into the empty cab, "I remember, I won't forget again." And the road behind him stayed silent.